Technology is accelerating everywhere. You've no doubt heard about ChatGPT, the AI, that technology. Everybody's talking about it right now. A few months ago, barely anybody was talking about AI. Now it's actually every single second post that I see is about that. And what the Metaverse is doing, it's kind of the next thing, and it's taking that technology to the next level. And where I find it to be a really exciting development is for experts and influencers, because there's this range of opportunities and applications that were never available, were never possible before. Certainly not available without traveling, without having in-person events. Zoom events just don't do justice to the amount of things that we can do with the Metaverse for engagement, for learning opportunities, for so many things. And we talked about a lot about that last week in part 1. We talked about what the Metaverse is. We talked about some of the applications. You can see a link to that presentation down in the comments. You definitely want to check that out, especially if you're new to the Metaverse or you're wondering about what some of the applications are for coaches, for experts, for expert businesses, for info marketers even. So many things, in addition to the obvious ones like e-commerce. Today and this week, we're going to get down and dirty into some real statistics, because you need those statistics in order to make a good decision about whether this is right for your business or whether this is just another shiny object, whether this is just a distraction, whether it makes sense for you to be thinking about it today or thinking about it a year from now or thinking about it 10 years from now. Without knowing what's actually going on in the market and seeing some of those statistics, you really can't make that decision. We're also going to talk about a couple small steps that you can take if you think the Metaverse might be in your business or in the now or in the future, and how you can get started fairly risk-free. So if you're an expert, a course creator, information marketer, you're an influencer, you're probably going to want to take some notes to some of this, because we're going to first of all dive into some stats. So studies have shown that 76% of Americans are considering joining the Metaverse. So that's a lot. That's a big segment. And clearly that means that your customers are probably, your customers, your clients, your prospects, they're probably within that 76% somewhere. Now that percentage is obviously going to depend on your audience. It's going to depend on your niche. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but clearly, like if you're in the millennial gaming niche, it's probably higher than 70, most of your customers are probably going to be on the Metaverse very soon. If you're in a retirement niche, maybe not so much. The next statistic to look at, though, is that we expect 25% of people are going to be spending at least 1 hour per day in the Metaverse by 2026. Now, that's a significant amount. If you think of about 1 hour per day, most Americans, you look at the amount of time they're spending on TV, for example, and I don't know what that statistic is off the top of my head. It's a lot. It's probably way higher than it should be. But 1 hour takes a significant chunk out of that, and it is a big market. But it does also show that we have a little bit of time. That's a 2026. That's a few years down the line. It's certainly not everybody who's going to be spending that much time there on a regular basis. It's also important to note that only about 30% of all businesses are going to be operating their business at all in the Metaverse by 2026. So over the next 3 years. So that presents a couple things. First of all, it presents obviously an opportunity, because there's a really good shot at you being a first mover if this is something that you decide is right for your business. But it also shows that it might not be necessary at all, especially to get in right away, just in order to compete. Like with certain things, like for example, if you're a copywriter today, I'm going to use that just because it's a field that I know well. If you're a copywriter today and you're not looking at chat, GPT and AI and the AI technologies for writing copy, chances are your career is going to be in trouble, and you're going to be very quickly replaced by a copywriter who is using those tools. There's a saying that says, AI isn't going to replace your job, but your job will be replaced by somebody who's using AI. So that's really is the case. If you're a copywriter and you're not looking at chat, GPT, and these other these other AI technologies, I believe that your career is probably in trouble. Looking at the Metaverse, though, and saying that 30% of the businesses by 2026 in the next 3 years, only 30% are even going to be there at all, that tells you that you do have some time. And it also tells you that we have to be strategic when we make that decision. We don't want to be chasing shiny objects. We don't want to be chasing technology and spending a lot of money on different platforms, on different software, on different strategies without knowing where we want to go with it and without having a plan as to how we're going to use it and how we're going to integrate it within our business environment. If we just randomly jump into this as the next big thing, chances are it's going to fail because well, the truth is it really isn't there yet. The metaverse itself isn't there yet and still has quite a ways to go. Like I said, it was earlier, it's further along than I thought it was, but it's still not there yet. Not everyone knows how to navigate that space. Not everyone has the equipment they need. Now, you don't necessarily need, the big headsets and the hand controllers and all those things. Those make it more fun. You don't need those now. More and more applications are coming out where you just need a browser and you can actually join the metaverse right in your browser. But even at that, you need, a little bit of higher processing power than a lot of people's computers have, those kind of things. Also, a lot of the space that's in the metaverse right now is still very, what I like to call kind of cartoony, kind of first generation, like things don't look all that realistic. Now, that being said, there is a lot out there that looks very photorealistic, so it's not going to stay that way. But when you look at the big vast majority of the space, like for example, if you're having meetings in there, your meetings are kind of going to look like you're meeting with a bunch of cartoons, not real people. It's getting closer, it's getting better all the time, but it's still not there yet. And since it's not fully developed, the users aren't just hanging around in the metaverse looking for opportunities to interact with you. They're not there just looking for opportunities to buy something. We talked a lot about marketing in the marketing applications. We talked about those in part 1. And the truth is, people aren't in there just kind of wandering around looking for things to buy. If somebody's interacting you in the metaverse, they're going into the metaverse specifically with that intention of interacting with you. So say you had a coaching program, for example, they're going there to go to that coaching meeting. They're not just spending time just kind of wandering around aimlessly and saying, oh, here's a coaching or here's some information, let's go in there and see what's in there. That's not happening yet. And it kind of reminds me about a recent conversation I had about groups and Facebook groups and other groups in general. So let's put the metaverse aside for a second and let's talk about groups, something that everybody knows about, something that if you're coaching or you have any type of online business, especially an information business or an expert business, you probably know about groups. And right now there are several emerging groups for group coaching programs, for example. It used to be that everybody would join Facebook groups. So you would go to Facebook groups was the big thing. And then coaches started picking up and they started using Facebook groups for their coaching programs, for their communities, for their community interactions. Other businesses would use it for their community interactions, those types of things. Even for support calls. They were being done within these Facebook groups. But then a lot of new contenders kind of came into the space. You have things like Circle, you've got Mighty Networks, Discourse. There's tons of them out there that people are looking at. And many businesses, especially on the expert businesses like us, they're starting to look at these other platforms. They may be because they have better features, they may have more privacy, they may have better cancel proofing. One of the reasons we started looking at a lot of these alternative groups over the years. And what's happened is these groups are coming out and they're better, but you're seeing that many businesses who are jumping on these are actually ending up going back to Facebook and leaving these other platforms and going back to Facebook groups. Why? I mean, why are we doing this? We know that Facebook isn't where we want to be. We know that it can be canceled. We know that there's better features out there. So why are people going back? And the answer is because that's where their people are. People are already spending hours and hours and hours and hours on Facebook. So if you're sending a message out to your group, they're more likely to see it because they're in there looking at cat videos anyway. They're also more likely to engage with you because they're in there, they're engaging. That's what they're doing. They're spending time. I don't remember what the number of hours is, but it's terrifying the number of hours people are spending on Facebook. Fortunately, that's dropping. It's dropping significantly, and it's dropping quickly, and people are going to these other groups and other platforms. But so far, that is where people are spending their time, and it's still in the realm of hours per day. Remember, we said earlier, 25% by 2026. So in 3 years, 25% of people are going to be spending only an hour a day in the metaverse, and that's pretty huge. But right now, a much more significant percentage of the population is spending much more than an hour in there. Now, if you already have an engaged group, or you're creating a coaching platform that's going to be engaged, then something like Circle might be good for you, because people are going to go to Circle to actually be a part of your coaching program. So when I go to Circle, I'm in some coaching programs. I go to Circle, I pay for that. I go visit when we have a meeting in there. I go there specifically for that interaction. I don't hang around in there, but I do go there for that very specific reason of interacting with my group within that space. And if you have that very engaged group, those people are also very likely to follow you into the metaverse and do the same thing. So if you have an engaged Circle group or Facebook group, and the people are coming there every day to see you and to interact with your business, then there's a good chance that, depending on their tolerance for technology, there's a good chance that they'll also do the same in the metaverse. They're going to go there specifically to see you. But depending on your niche, it's very unlikely that people are just going to go there and find you there, or that they're going to engage just because they happen to be hanging out in that space. Now, that's going to change in the future, but people aren't going to be hanging around and say, oh, well, I'm just going to stop into, so-and-so's community and chat to that great extent, because they're not there already. So if your program isn't a destination that people are already going to for a reason, or if your ideal clients aren't already spending a bunch of time there, and honestly, if they're not gamers or first adopters, they're probably not, as we talked about. So if they're not already there, you're not going to get a lot of traction marketing, because how can you market to people who aren't in there looking to buy? You may not even get traction within your coaching program unless you already have people who are willing to go there to find you. And that's the important thing to think about with your business. Are people coming to your group specifically to visit you, to engage with you? If they are, then you might have a space there. But for marketing applications, we're still very, very early. And really overall, we're very early when we're starting to consider using that metaverse as a business, simply because people aren't there yet. There's also people who are very anti-metaverse. They don't like the technology. They don't want to be involved in the technology, and they say they will never be involved with the technology. They don't want to wear the headsets, and the headsets are getting smaller and more comfortable, but certainly far from being there yet. And a lot of people just don't want that 3D interaction. They want to be able to work in that 2D world where you can have 15 different tabs open, and you're looking at your email while you're in your coaching program, whatever it is, you're watching your cat videos at the same time. A lot of people want that and will never move into the metaverse. And like I said, that's why you have to look at it specifically for your business and specifically to what your needs are, what problems you're trying to solve. Is it something that you can show better than you can tell? That's a great application for the metaverse. We'll talk about that in a bit too. But you really have to look at it from that angle. What are you trying to accomplish with it? There's still a ton of challenges out there. There's still some really big changes in store. There are some really cool photorealistic worlds out there, but those are pretty few and far between. Most things, like I said, are kind of still cartoony or low resolution looking yet. So we're not at that place. But it does have a lot of future development. Things are going to grow there, but it is not there yet. And for some businesses and for some niches, it will never be there. Like I said, some businesses and some people specifically don't ever want to be in that world. Now, I think a lot of those people said they wouldn't be in Facebook, and likely are. So a lot of that may change too as it becomes more popular. But it is a completely different world from what we're used to. So there is some growth, and you have to look at it. And while there are applications from everything from coaching to e-commerce, not every business should even be thinking about it right now. But if you do have the time and you have the spare time, so it's not just a big shiny object that you're distracting you from something you have to do. If you have the budget to be able to play there, you can get started for really cheap. You can get started for free. Many spatial frame, there's many free platforms on that you can get out there and play with. If you want to get a headset, you can get into a headset for starting around $400 and really play and have some fun. So if you have that budget and you have the desire, maybe, if you're just into that kind of thing, you're just into the coolness factor. That's what, that's the sake with me. I just think it's really cool. I like to look into this kind of stuff. I like to be able to feel out this new technology. I'm a geek. I'm a geek in that regard. I like to see this stuff. So if you have those, the time, the budget, the desire, the aptitude, it can be for a way for you to get in on the cutting edge within your industry. And like I said earlier, that's especially interesting if you can come up with different ways to show and not tell. So if there's something in your coaching program that your users can experience, what they could experience if they were in person, but they couldn't experience on a Zoom call, for example, that's going to be the big differentiator within the metaverse and within that space. And if you have that, I think the applications are huge. And like I said, you do have an opportunity to be a first mover in that space still. In some ways, I felt as I was looking into it, I was almost falling behind because they've gone so much farther than I had thought they had, but it is still a small world and there's still plenty of growth there. The important thing that you do, though, is to make sure that you start simple and start small. Just start playing around. Like I said, you can get into virtual worlds like spatial.io, framevr.io is another one, and a bunch of other ones you can get into completely free. And you don't need those expensive headsets or controllers. You can just start with your keyboard and play there. Add your microphone and your webcam and play around with that. Eventually order yourself a headset if you think it's cool and you think it's fun, if you're into that kind of thing. A headset does take it to the next level. It makes things so much more real, so much more engaged. But it's also, you know, a $400 to $1,000 investment to actually do that. So you have to make the decision whether that's going to be painful for you or not. You also really want to focus on your customer needs and the problems that you want to solve. I was actually just talking to the Metaverse to one of my coaches, and that was his first question. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? When you're thinking about moving your business into the metaverse, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? So for example, in me, I have to look at the fact that I have to look at my mission first. So for me, it's my mission to give a voice to experts who are building new systems outside of the tyrannical top-down systems of the past. So I help experts get their message to the world and do it in a way where they're making a higher impact and they're able to live the lifestyles that they want while they're becoming cancel-proof. And that's the big thing for me, is just fighting this censorship environment, that the attacks on freedom of speech that we're seeing right now. So I help experts who have these powerful messages that we need to break free from these tyrannical top-down systems. I help them get their message without getting canceled. So when I'm asking that question, I need to answer the question of the problem that we're solving within that context, and how does the metaverse help us do that? And we do have some news coming up with that very soon. I'm not ready to quite announce it yet because we're still sort of developing and we're still sort of looking into options. But we do have some news coming out on that yet because, like I said, I'm a geek, I'm a first adopter, I like this kind of stuff. So anyway, once you've gotten started and after you've sort of dipped your toe into the water and just started, like I said, playing around, have some conversations, have some meetings with your team. Like I said, it doesn't cost anything to get your team started. You can get up to like 8 users, sometimes some of the environments even more than that. Get all of your team into a room, a virtual room, and have a discussion. See how it feels, see how it all works and comes together. If you like that, then start looking at moving from, you know, just sort of dipping your toe into the next level. Look at where you can build more customized metaverse solutions. For example, maybe you're already running webinars within your business. If you're not, you probably should be. Spoiler alert there, you should probably look at webinars. But anyway, if you're running those webinars already, maybe try running one in the metaverse. See how it goes, see how it feels, see how your customers and your clients respond. Chances are you're going to have a lower number, but maybe you have some super engaged customers that would also like to try it out, and they can give you feedback. So just go in there, take it slowly. Like I said, do something you're already doing now and just take it and move it over into that metaverse. And then from there, you can then grow and attempt new ways of engagement. And that's what we were talking about sooner, where you can expand and build your virtual space to expand how that interaction and how that experience will work. What experiences can your customers have in person that they can't have with you on a Zoom call or an email, for example? Better yet, what can you do in the metaverse that you can't even do in person? 3D models. Is there something within your coaching program or in your information that you can build a 3D model for and you can show in 3D? Is there fun things that you can do, like a happy hour in a virtual space where you have, you know, generated food and drinks, and everybody maybe has real food and drinks as well? to make it more of an interactive environment, more of an interactive and fun environment. I think from there, I personally think that one of the big applications is in social engagements, because it's one thing to have a social meeting, and I know I go to a lot of events both in person and virtually, and a lot of the virtual Zoom meetings we've tried to have like a Zoom after meeting beer, and we go for a beer and you're on a Zoom call and you're having a chat, and they're cool, they're fun. That's where the real deals are made. That's where you make the big connections. So there's something that you need, but there's something special about doing that within the metaverse where you're in a 3D space. Maybe you're on the beach, maybe you're by the pool, maybe you're in a big conference hall, whatever that is. There's something special about being able to be immersed in this three-dimensional environment with your peers and really talk, really interact. And that's something where it's definitely an application for the future, and that's definitely the next level thing that you can build into your business. Like I said, have some meetings with your team, do those kind of things. If you want to chat, about your business specifically, I love to talk to business owners. You can set up a free meeting with us. We'll talk for 10 minutes and talk about whether we see any applications there for you, or if you want to chat about just business in general, what it's going to take to get your business to the next step. You can just set up an appointment, palmtreeresearch.com/booking. That's palmtreeresearch.com/booking. We'll have a chat for 10 minutes. We can discuss our system, how we make businesses cancer-proof. We'll look at opportunities for your business to make a bigger impact in a way that's not going to get you canceled and censored. So anyway, that is all the time that we have for today. I really do need to get to other meetings. We have the summit coming up. So there's a lot of meetings going on around that right now. But next Friday, we're not going to go live since we're all going to be at the Cancel Proof Summit that day. But we're going to be returning the following Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern, for the next episode of Renegade News Live. And that one's going to be on fire. We already know the topic. I'm not going to release it today, but it's going to be a good one. It's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to that one. And so you don't miss it, just remember to subscribe and hit that notification button. And that way you're never going to miss an episode. I'm Glenn Kowalski, and if you love freedom of speech, and if you want to make a bigger impact while pursuing your life's mission, and you should be, but to do that, you need to be a renegade. So I will see you next time on Renegade News Live.